Why, hello folks. Unfortunately, since I'm not part of the hallowed halls of official Warframe content creators, that means I don't get all of the new goodies early. No siree. I don't get to play with them on day one. I have to grind them out the normal way and just find all the stuff. So, as of yet. Which means that, you know, my videos always come out a day or two after everyone else, so hey, maybe some of the hype has already died down. Hopefully not, because hey, you know what, there's still a lot of stuff to talk about with LAVOS. A lot of stuff that's unexplored, and you know what, maybe some of those early videos from people who want to just get something out as quickly as possible, maybe some of those people got some things wrong. Who knows? That's not outside of the realm of possibility. Anyway, let's talk about Snake Boy. He is the newest Warframe. I have invested very heavily in this guy because I wanted to try him out. Because he's so cool in concept. I went as far as like sticking an Umbra Forma in this guy. So this is a lot of stuff. This is a lot of stuff. But hey, I wanted to give him a good tryout. The next step is going to be Helminth builds, stuff like that. But for now, let's just look at his normal kit with everything as it is. And just, is it good or not? Does it work? Huh? Is it a good Warframe? Okay, so first of all, let's talk about his abilities so you understand how this guy works. He does not have energy. All other Warframes in the game have energy. LAVOS does not. He works from a new system. He works on cooldowns. Now, me being an old sort of like Diablo 3 player, I know how to work with cooldowns. And if you've played like World of Warcraft or any MMO, you know how to work with cooldowns. And just having abilities on rotation, cycling through them, stuff like that. So his number one, it's a snake whip. He whips people with the snakes. He's a whipping boy. And this ability might not look like much, but what this ability does is it heals you. It heals you by a lot with some beefy power strength, something like that. This thing is gonna drain the health of enemies and give it to you. And the more enemies you hit, the more it heals you. It's very easy to late game just, you know, you just click 1 when you're in a pile of enemies and you get back up to full health. Yeah. So that's good. That's always useful. His number 2 is partly a mobility skill, partly a crowd control skill, partly for feeding his other abilities. It's the Vile Rush. It looks like this. And he drops all of these glass vials and they leave like goo on the floor. And, you know, people get hit by status effects who stand in it. Yeah. Now, all of these have innate elementals as well. His number 1, that's a poison attack. His number 2, it's a cold attack. But, you know, more on that later. His number 3 is the Transmutation Probe. You send out a little glass thing over there. You see it? And it shocks enemies that it passes through. And this ability is very important because enemies that pass through it, for every enemy that you shock, you reduce the cooldowns on your other abilities. So this is your method of cooldown reduction, your tool for cooldown reduction, which is very important. Now, then you have his number 4, which is he shoots out his goo in all directions, his gel. See? Those things. And they spray enemies with goo. And they take fire damage. And what's important about this one, if you look down in the bottom, oh, it's got such a long cooldown. It's like a 30-second cooldown on this thing. Is the damage is doubled for every status effect that is affecting an enemy. Oh, so you're supposed to like apply a bunch of status effects on an enemy and then hit them with this. Yes, you are. So it's kind of like condition overload. It's exactly like condition overload, actually. Which is, you know, how you build melee weapons and stuff nowadays for really endgame stuff. He also has some passives, and these are very important. Passive number 1, you've noticed when I walk over these energy balls, even though he doesn't have energy, he gets something in the top right corner. It's called Valence Block. What that means is if he steps on an energy orb or a universal orb, he becomes status immune for 10 seconds, which is very nice. You know, you can't get knocked down, you can't get hit by toxin proc, stuff like that. So long as you like always step over orbs, you're fine. Doesn't work on health orbs, but they work on universal orbs. What's that? Well, his number 3 ability turns health orbs and energy orbs into universal orbs that give you like both. So, you know, it's just a passive thing. You're not really going to be paying attention to it, but like as you're always using your abilities, you're going to be stepping over these orbs all the time. So you most of the time, almost all the time, you are going to be status immune when you play like in a high density mission with this guy. His second passive, which is very important, as you can see in the bottom right corner, you can add elemental effects to your abilities if you hold instead of pressing. Now, I've figured out, or I have a feel for like the idea that this is probably less clunky on console than it is playing on PC. Because playing on PC, you usually use your AWSD to move, and then your 1, 2, 3, 4 for abilities. Which means if you're gonna hold down a cast, like that, hey, now my next ability is gonna do poison damage. I have to let go of like my one of the directional buttons. I think if you use abilities on like a console, if you use like the shoulder button or something, that's going to be way smoother. You're going to be able to do that without losing mobility. But hey, it is what it is. So how this works is, if you hold down the cast of his 1, 2, 3, or 4, you can imbue another ability with a certain element. That does not replace the element, it just adds another one on top. So my number 2, it does cold damage. If I first hold 1 to infuse my next cast with poison, and now I press 2, now this rush does cold damage and toxin damage. That's how that works. So number 1 is poison, or toxin, number 2 is cold, number 3 is electric, and number 4 is heat. So now, for example, with heat and press 1, now these whips do fire damage and toxin damage. You can also mix and match 2. You can do multiple elements. So if I hold down my 1 and 2 at the same time... I didn't do it at the same time. I'm a Dumbo. Hold down 1 and 2 at the same time. That's odd. I'm trying to hold them down at the same time, but they're not holding down at the same time. Anyway, you can do them one at a time too. So as you can see here, first I imbue an ability with cold, and then I imbue it with poison. Hey, now it's viral. Now my next attack will do viral damage in addition to the element it already does. So that's cool, right? 2 and 3, magnetic. 1 and 4, gas. Stuff like that. So once you get into the rhythm of this and start to like just... It takes a while. It takes a while to get used to it. But once you do get used to it, it becomes sort of second nature. Obviously, these abilities will always become more effective if you imbue them, because they do 2 status effects instead of just 1. So you should always imbue your abilities before you cast. So, like, your rhythm is going to be something like you imbue, and then you cast. And then you imbue, and then you cast. And then you imbue, and then you cast. And then you imbue, and then you cast. Stuff like that. And you're just gonna like be cycling through your abilities that way as you're playing. So is this good? Is this good? Does this do any damage? Well, let's find out. So it actually does. Yes, it does. It's tricky. It's tricky to use. So first of all, let's use the old proboscis. I'm gonna group some enemies together. Right, so here we have him standing in a nice and juicy pack, like this. So, say you want to, like, just, you know, imbue a bunch of different effects on enemies. I can, for example, hold 4, and then I whip them. And then I do corrosive, and then I dash through them. And then I do viral, and use my number 4. And yeah, like the ability, like the damage it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's gonna burn through enemies decently. if you do your stacking. Obviously, you want to combine this with like a melee weapon because, hey, impact, puncture, and slash, those also count as like status effects. So, hitting people with like slash procs as well. It's gonna add even another like damage doubler on this. So you have to treat this ability like condition overload. Additionally, it doesn't apply itself, the number 4. It doesn't apply its own heat or whatever we imbued it with, like, to the doubling. So it's whatever status effects the enemies had on them before you cast your number 4. That is what, that is what's gonna count for the doubling effects. So, that's basically his kit. That's how that works. No sort of, like, defensive stuff here, other than the crowd control from like being able to zap enemies and freeze them in place and stuff like that, add radiation, who knows. But no sort of like just, damage mitigation, just the fact that he's status immune. So to compensate for that, this guy's a tank. This guy has huge base armor values and some chunky health as well. So, if you, like, invest in this guy, blast him with, like, an umbral fiber or something like that, and in my case, 3 umbral mods, that's right, he gets, like, a natural, like, very high damage reduction. I'm still grinding out the event, so I don't have my rank 5 Arcane Guardian yet. I'm running with Avenger instead. Once you have a max rank Arcane Guardian... Let's see. Energize, Grace. Barrier. Where is it? Where's my Arcane Guardian? There. You can get yourself even more damage whenever or more armor whenever you're damaged. Which is quite a lot as well. So you can make him even tankier. Now, having like tried to apply all of this in practice, this is an interesting Warframe because this Warframe is almost designed for endgame. It's almost designed for solo endurance runs because that's where his ability kit shines. Or you can really start stacking damage on enemies. Because the problem with this guy is that his stuff kinda doesn't work all that well in low-level content with, like, a full squad of Warframes, of teammates. Like, take, for example, something like, I don't know, let's take a Lancer or something, just a normal Grineer Lancer, right? Where is he? Ooh, Elite Lancers. No, we don't want Elite Lancers, we want normal Lancer, yeah. And yeah, let's take 20 of those, whatever. And let's put them at, say, a level 40 or 50, something like that. Say level 50, whatever. Now the problem here is, like, you want to apply all of these different status effects, and then you want to hit them with your number 4. But say I do, like, corrosive, and I smash through them with my number 2, and then I do viral, and then I hit them with my number 1. And it's like they're dead. They're dead. They're dead before I even get to my 4. And my 4, if I don't stack status effects first, it does a decent amount of damage, but as you can see, like, it took a while to get those guys down. On these low-level guys, like, my number 1 probably kills faster than my number 4 does. Because the 4 needs setup. You need to stack a bunch of status effects, but by the time you've stacked status effects, they're already dead. The other problem is obviously that your cooldowns are going to be a problem in a public game because you want to shoot out your thing, right? And it's going to zap enemies, and zapping enemies gives you your cooldowns back. But if you're in a public game, all your teammates are just killing stuff left and right, so there's no enemies left. So when you shoot out the thing, it doesn't hit enough enemies, and it doesn't remove your cooldowns fast enough. So like, if you just take this guy for normal missions, he's not gonna give you, like, as much juice out of his abilities as you would like him to. But if you take him out for a spin on the steel path in, like, a solo endurance run, like, he can go long. He can go long, and he's gonna deal massive damage. With, like, zero help from the helmet system or anything like that. He's just very strong. Very strong for late game stuff. So that's kinda what you want to use him for. What's also good about that is that he's fun. It's a fun playstyle, because when you do get his cooldown reduction to work and you're constantly cycling between abilities, then the whole rhythm of imbuing and hitting and imbuing and hitting and imbuing and shooting and imbuing and shooting and imbuing again and doing your thing and imbuing more and doing things, like, that's fun. It's fun to, like, just use all of his 4 abilities, cycling through them, mixing and matching, like, learning the rhythm of just doing these spamming abilities this way. It's super fun. It's super fun, and it's effective. It works in high-level content by yourself. In a group, not so much. So there are some things you can do with this guy, I think, like tweaks, to make him more fun for group play, and we'll get to that. Obviously, there's something I have to mention. There's something I have to mention about this number 4. I don't know if this is an oversight or if this is, like, something that is intentional, but it has no verticality. It goes just straight horizontally. So see these guys right here? Say I jump up here and do the number 4. They are not hit by that at all. So the poison gel does not rain down on them. Let's get the cooldown back. There we go. Got my cooldown back. Say I'm standing down here and casting this thing. That's close enough. That's close enough to where they get hit by it. But if I were just, like, a little bit further down, it actually wouldn't hit them. And that makes this ability very clunky because, hey, guess what? At this point in 2020, Warframe is a vertical game as much as it is a horizontal game. And being able to only hit enemies with this ability while you're standing on a plane surface is a very big drawback to the ability. It actually lessens the functionality quite a bit. So I figure that's gonna be fixed. I hope it's gonna be fixed. Otherwise you're only gonna be using him effectively in certain tiles that have very flat surfaces, where your enemies are gonna be cursing and swearing that they're so goddamn sick of all these snakes on this motherfucking plane surface. Did you see what I did there? Did you see it? Yeah. That was a snake pun. Next up, like, I know that the idea is that you are supposed to master the Transmutation Probe. And, like, learning how to get cooldowns working that way. But, again, like, that only really works in solo play. Where you can hit enough enemies with it. When you're in a group play, it's not a particularly effective tool for reducing your cooldowns. And not being an effective tool for reducing cooldowns means that you're only going to be able to use your number 4 like once every 30 seconds. And if it's going to be that slow, you won't be able to use it more often than that, then you're probably just going to do more damage just with, like, a condition overload melee weapon. You use your number 1, 2, and 3 abilities to just stack status effects on enemies, and then just, you hit them with your melee, and you kill them that way. And then you just don't concern yourself with the number 4 ability, because you're not using it often enough for it to be valuable anyway for your playstyle. So, like, currently, if I'm gonna do, like, a Helminth build thing with LAVOS, I'm gonna do something that makes him better for group play. He's already fantastic for solo play endurance runs with his kit. But if you want to do something for group play, I'm probably gonna, like, replace his number 4 with something else. Because that cooldown is just too much of a hassle to deal with if you can't if you can't cut it down correctly. So yeah, super interesting Warframe, very fun gameplay loop, very fun playstyle. He plays very differently from most other Warframes. He's tanky as all hell. He can apply whatever status effect you want on enemies. He's very, very strong for solo play, for endurance runs. He is not currently functioning all that well in group play and in lower level content, so like normal content. The reason being, he can't manage his cooldowns properly. His number 4 has limited utility in a group setting where you're moving from area to area, and you can't use it very often. So there are a couple of ways you can fix that. Possibly augments, but that's like the thing for the future. I would maybe like to see some more options for cooldown reduction that might be less effective but faster. Like, for example, because like if you hit his number 3 perfectly on a big group of enemies, you're just gonna nullify all the cooldowns. But you can do smaller stuff as well. You can make it so that, like, I don't know, maybe while he's status immune from the Valence block, maybe while he's under that effect, enemies hit by his number 1 also, like, reduce the cooldowns a little bit. Something like that. Make it so that you could, like, pop it, like, right away, and pretty often. Just try to hit this more often. Give this some more utility besides just being a healing tool. Also, try to spam it for more cooldown reduction. That could be a thing to help out. And also, obviously, I think that they should add some verticality to his number 4 ability. I think that when you hit enemies like this, and it like goes above them, I think it should shower down. I think it should hit enemies that are below it. I think that would be a fair little tweak to that ability to make it just work better and just easier to apply it and easier to hit enemies with it. Because currently, like, when you hit enemies, oh, they melt. They melt. So, hey, whoever has told you that his number 4 ability doesn't do damage, well, I guess they weren't paying attention. Right? Because, believe me, his number 4 ability does damage. Alright. Let's look at that again, right? Shall we? So, let's do some magnetic. And we rush through. And we hit them with some slash. And then we do the number 4. Yeah! Like, the damage is there. Damage is there. Just gotta apply them status effect, people. Just gotta apply yourself. So hey, let's look at the actual build. Yeah. That's the final piece of the puzzle, right? So I put some resources into this guy. I had to, like, steel charge is not my aura mod of choice, but hey, I need it for all the stuff. So power strength, good on this guy. It makes it so that your catalyze really like just fries people. Also increases the health drain that you get from your Ophidian Bite, and being able to heal up is very nice. Status duration is a bit interesting on this guy, with duration. Duration doesn't, like, affect these abilities all that much. The Transmutation Probe, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. It's more, like, based on range, like how far it goes and how long it sticks around. Catalyze, it just goes for 5 seconds, no matter what. What duration does on LAVOS is that it increases status duration. And not just on his abilities, but also on the weapons that he has equipped. Which is interesting. That's something to keep in mind. I haven't really theory crafted yet if that is abusable with any particular weapons that you can do some degenerate things with. If you can alter their status duration. I don't know. I'll have to look into that a bit further. And then efficiency is also a bit of a weird stat for him, since he doesn't have energy. What efficiency does is just it increases the cooldown reduction you get from your Transmutation Probe. But it's 1 second at base. So you can get it up to like 1.7 seconds with maximum efficiency. I like having a little bit of efficiency on this build. It's not the craziest stat in the world, but you do want a lot of range. Range affects basically all of his abilities. Strength affects basically all of his abilities. And you want a little bit of duration and a little bit of efficiency. I find that, like, some people probably are going to say that you don't need to put more duration on this. You just need to have it at 100%, because negative duration is going to give you, like, bad status duration on your abilities and on your weapons. And then the status effects are going to get removed before you have the ability to cast your force, something like that. I don't know. So I like having a bit of duration on here. It just makes things smoother. You don't have to cycle through abilities quite as fast, and you're still going to hit everything. And yeah, I put in all 3 Umbral mods in this. Once I realized that this guy has a build that benefits from having Steel Fiber, from having Vitality, from having Intensify, and you want to put all 3 in, then you kind of start gravitating toward the idea of using all 3 Umbral mods, because the boosts are just so nice. You get so much armor. You get so much health. It really helps with the endgame builds. And he has a kind of like low shield supply. But I kind of like not having to do the whole juggling with shield gating and stuff. And just, you know, just have a tank boy. Just have a guy who can just take a hit and it doesn't really affect him all that much. You just whip out your number 1 ability to heal yourself back up to full health. And other than that, it's just very tanky. That's nice. That's very smooth for his playstyle. I like that. Other than that, I haven't grinded out the Cedo yet, and I kind of want to try that with LAVOS, because I know that the Cedo shotgun is designed the same way that he is. It has built-in condition overload, which basically makes it the best gun in the game currently. Arcane Grace, very nice to give him a bit of healing. He has low shields, so he does take damage pretty often. So you're gonna trigger these when damaged effects pretty consistently. I would like Grace and Guardian. I don't have Guardian yet. I do have an Avenger, so hey, a bit more crit chance. It's also pretty nice. Don't have to worry about other stuff like just, you know, resistance or whatever, because hey, guess what? He's gonna be status immune most of the time. If you want to, you can probably switch out Power Drift for, I'm gonna say Cunning Drift, maybe. If you want like a bit more range instead of a bit more power strength, that's probably fine. Hey, maybe you even want some more casting speed, because this number 4 takes a little bit of time to cast. It's probably fine though. So yeah. That's your Snake Boy. Next up, we're gonna fiddle around with the helmet system, see if we can tweak his abilities. I'm gonna read up a bit more on just how the helmet system even works with LAVOS, since he doesn't use energy, he uses cooldowns instead. Try to figure that one out, and then I'll come up with something neat. For now, though, he's a pretty good Warframe. It's just that, like, he's not a generalist. He's not good at everything. He excels at solo endurance runs. That's what he's best at. When it comes to group play, he needs to be tweaked a little bit. He needs to get a bit more utility in his ability set, because currently there's a bit too much setup. There's a bit too much setup for it to work in a group setting. It works when you play solo, not when you have other people running interference. But you know, he just got released. He's gonna go through some tweaks. But for now, he's cool. He's a cool guy. You should probably play him. I think you'd have fun.